All right, guys. So the Browns lost both their kicker and punter. I wonder if that's ever happened before, that a team lost their kicker and punter in the same weekend. And their backup quarterback. They lost their kicker, their punter, and their backup quarterback in the same game. I don't know how that happened.
You can't have a season where the most Brown thing hadn't happened yet. So that's something that only will happen to the Browns.
So the Browns needed quick answers because they had a game to play 4 days later. And they have signed 2 veteran players. Riley Patterson is a guy who's not been in the league that long. This is his third year in the NFL. We'll start with kicker here. These are his numbers from this year, guys. The numbers are really good, right? Overall, 15 of 17, which is 88%. He's made 35 of 37 extra points. Lions don't kick a lot of field goals, as you can see. They score a ton of points, as you can see with the extra points. His last game with the Lions was 2 weeks ago against the Bears. He did miss an extra point in that game. He didn't attempt any field goal.
Did they lose? They lost to the Bears, right?
They lost the first time they played the Bears. They beat them the second time.
No, you got it backwards.
I got it backwards?
They came back and beat the Bears the first time. They lost the second time.
Ah, okay, my bad. So then he missed the extra point in the game they lost.
Correct.
Now, it wasn't a game-winning, it wasn't like it cost them the game, and that's why they cut him. So I wanted to know, why was Riley Patterson cut? Because the numbers are good. And it was no big moment where he missed a big kick. They've been good. He's been good. And so I said, well, what happened here? So not this was too hard to research, but go ahead.
Was he was a free agent or he was on a practice squad?
No, he was their kicker.
No, I'm talking about how the Browns just got him. What was he? He was free agent?
He had been cut, yes. He was a free agent,
okay.
Yes. So Patterson apparently lost his job to Michael Badgley, who used to be with the Chargers. Apparently, Badgley and Patterson, every week in practice, because Badgley was, I guess, on their practice squad, were, kicking balls. They were practicing kicking.
They were busting balls.
For the last bunch of weeks, and according to their special teams coach, who I don't remember his name, he said that the new kicker was doing a better job, and that's why they got rid of this guy. But because at first I was like, well, why'd they cut him? Because he hadn't missed, usually when a guy gets cut during the season, either his overall numbers are bad or he missed a really big kick in a big spot. Didn't happen here. So what I would ask, and before I get to more on him, what I would ask you guys is, listen, and he's 50% in his career on 50-plus yard field goals, 3 of 6. He only attempted 2 this year, 1 of 2. So, and the Lions were not, this is an interesting tidbit here, the Lions were not using him to kick off. The Lions punter, Jake Fox, was their kickoff guy. Now, he was in Jacksonville last year, and he did do kickoff, so obviously he can do it. But what's our confidence level for you guys? Obviously, Hopkins was just kind of a guy before he came here. Here he was great. What do we think of this guy coming in? Good numbers.
What is his past 50 yards, he's 50%.
3 of 6 in his career.
But
over 3 seasons.
Anything
1
under
of 2 this year.
Anything under that, what is it? 88%?
For his career, better than that.
He's 58 for 66 on field goals. So if you take out the 3 for 6, that means he's 55 of 60 in his career inside of 50 yards.
This is what I was.
That's over 90%.
I was on who was I talking to? Was it Phil? Maybe it was Phil Dawson I was talking to on the radio. Phil was talking about how when he was a kicker for the Browns, he said the ones that he didn't care about the most was the ones that was over 50 yards, because he says it's like a 50-50 chance you're going to make that anyway. So you just line up and kick it your best as you can. But the ones that's under that, that's where the pressure's at. And you said he's 51 of 60 outside?
He's 55 of 60
inside 50.
Oh, I like that. I mean, listen.
That's 92%.
The Browns just know that you got to get it under 50. That's probably the way they look at it, and he seems like he's pretty good there. Dustin Hopkins was special because he was able to make those, and being with Bubba Ventrone, obviously they got together. He helped them out on a couple of things, and he helped them be more successful. Hopefully Bubba can do that with Patterson. I know it's a short week, so that might take a little bit of time, but for these next 2 weeks, listen, I just need him to make the ones under 50 yards. I think that's where the Browns are.
Jason?
Yeah. There was a time we didn't know anything about Dustin Hopkins, and we were making fun of his name, and he clearly lived up to every expectation and more. My concern now is those numbers were, I don't know about all his career numbers, but the Lions numbers were in a dome.
Well,
and there ain't no dome now.
3 years in the league. He was with the Lions his first year.
Yeah.
The Jags his second year, some warm weather.
Yeah.
And then back with the Lions his third
And we could have said the same thing about Hopkins with the Chargers.
Yeah.
In terms of being a dome and whatever. But, I mean, that's the biggest adjustment for Patterson to make is that you're kicking in Cleveland in December. You're pretty far removed from a dome.
But
So-
still,
Now-
he still got to go to Green Bay, and he still had to go
Sure.
to
But
Chicago.
let me say this. Once we get to the playoffs where it matters,
Yeah.
right? If he has to kick the first week, it's probably going to be in either Miami, Houston, or in a dome in
Yeah.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, Hold on,
wait,
so we're not worried about weather there.
Mike, let me ask you this. You can look this up. Where was he at when he missed the field goals? Can you look that
His
up?
misses, yeah, I can find. Hold
But
on.
let me tell you, the one thing I'm a little concerned about the long field goals with him because he's only 3 of 6, because they didn't attempt a lot, and the fact that they didn't have him doing kickoffs makes you think, well, he doesn't have the strongest leg.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, again, he did it in Jacksonville. He did the kickoffs there, and maybe it's just that the Lions punter is really good, and he's good at it. One thing I will say that's a positive for this guy is he kicked in the playoffs last year because he was with Jacksonville last year.
Yeah.
And they played 2 playoff games. They were both, remember, they had the big comeback against the Chargers, and they had that close game with the Chiefs that they got eliminated in. He was 3 for 3 field goals in the playoffs. He was 4 for 4 in his extra points. I don't remember if any of the field goals were over 50, but he was perfect. So he's been in those pressure situations at least last year. And another positive is that he's been kicking this year.
At the end of the day, if it's under 50, I trust him. If it's over 50, it's quick. But you know what? We got 2 games to find out.
Yeah,
we'll find
that's
out
true.
these next 2 weeks.
Hopkins got to the point where he had Kevin Stefanski's full trust, and I
Yes.
think it altered the way Kevin called games.
No
knowing that
doubt.
he had a kicker who he felt comfortable with from 55 even, 55, 56. And
Right.
I think that starts over now,
100%.
where Patterson has to earn that trust. And, I think Kevin's going to call probably a different call on third down if he's looking at a 57-yard field goal and Patterson staying on the sideline as opposed to the faith that he had in Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right on that. There's no way you're going to trust him as much. Go ahead, Mike.
I got the answer, Tyvis. You ready?
Yeah, please tell me something.
So
good.
in his career, this is in his career. He has he's got 8 misses in his career. At Seattle, at Washington, home versus Vegas. He missed 2 in a game versus Kansas City, in Kansas City. He missed a kick at MetLife playing the Jets. Missed a kick in Tampa playing the Buccaneers, and he missed another kick at home against the Raiders. So 6 of his 8 misses. have come
Where was the
on the
Kansas?
road.
The Kansas City game was what time of the year?
The Kansas City game when he missed 2 kicks was on November 13th.
All right, so I mean, who knows? It
That
doesn't sound
tells
like
us
weather's a
yeah, tells us that.
Tyvis asked, I delivered.
I
No,
just
you
wanted.
did, you did.
I wanted to
Didn't
know.
tell us much, but
I thought I wanted to see the
If
weather.
they were all in Chicago,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
I was sure gonna say, please say that. Don't say
Three in
Green Bay or
Chicago and 3 in
Chicago.
Green Bay.
Now let's flip, guys. Now let's flip to the punter. So the punter, Matt Hawk, is a guy who obviously has a connection with Bubba Ventrone because he was the punter in Indianapolis in 2022. So he was his punter last year. He's been in the league for a long time. He's actually, I think he's played like almost 100 games in his career. So he's got plenty of experience. He has not been a guy that has ever really been a kickoff guy. So I would assume the kicker who didn't do it this year but did it last year is going to be the kickoff guy. In terms of the punter, I'm a lot less worried about him than the kicker. But it's good that they got a guy with experience.
They haven't ruled out Bajorquez yet. So,
I thought he was ruled out for this game.
no, it's
No,
day to
not
day.
ruled out yet.
It's
Okay.
day.
All
Kevin
right.
said yesterday he's day to day.
Okay.
It sounds like the Hopkins thing could be a couple weeks. I don't know if he'll be back for the playoffs or not.
Yeah.
And probably, if I had to guess, Bajorquez probably isn't going to kick Thursday. It's a short week, obviously.
Why would you rush it back?
Yeah, I think more than likely it'll be this guy. But
Yeah.
just for the record, he has not been ruled out yet. Bajorquez.
Both Patterson and Hawk have been signed to the practice squad. They're both on the practice squad and not on the active roster today. But they could be called up for elevated for the
Yeah,
game tomorrow.
they've got some decisions to make with the roster. Obviously, putting DTR on IR
Right.
opens
They got to
a
add another
spot
quarterback.
on the practice squad. Probably, yeah. They'll have to. I don't know where they're going to go, but they'll have to find someone for the practice squad. But PJ will take DTR spot on the active roster. I
Yeah.
can't believe. I knew he'd come back. He's like a boomerang.
Yeah.
Tyvis' favorite player. No matter how far you throw him,
Whoa.
he comes right back.
My favorite player is Denzel Ward.
If Tyvis wins the fantasy, he should have to buy a Phillip Walker jersey with.
Yeah.
I would.
Are they even selling them at the
I
Browns?
would.
You have to customize that.
Only if
that's true.
I could get him to sign it.
Yeah.
Phil,
Hey,
you got to sign my jersey.
Mike, real quick before we switch it up.